Hello, friends and colleagues. This is and the students. This is Dr. Singhal again from Rose State College, Midwest City in Oklahoma City. Okay, so this is the part 4 of steps in software development using JavaScript. Part 1 and 2 were independent of language. In 3 we introduced JavaScript. We'll do more JavaScript basics in this video, and then we'll finish up our translation of source code, pseudocode to source code, and we will actually run that. So we'll finish everything that we were trying to do in steps in software development in this part 4. Okay, so last time we were talking about variable declaration. I'm going to repeat some portion of that here. So actually I have to go to PowerPoint. Okay. So as I said, remember we needed 3 variables in the number multiplying program. In order to work with the variables in JavaScript, the variable needs declaration, true of any other language, and the following syntax is used to declare variables. In JavaScript you use the word var, and you have to give a variable name. A little bit later we'll tell you that name cannot be one of the JavaScript reserved word, but here we'll just practice some caution and not use one of those names that are reserved for the language. Okay, so there were 3 variables, num1, num2, and the product. So to declare num1, the JavaScript code is this, the word var, and the name of the variable is num1. There are some variations in technique of variable declaration. We show those variations in the next slide. It can be done using 2 additional syntax. One that is shown in the previous slide, of course, where we just declared it. But generally, it's a good idea to give some initial value, let's say 0.0 or something, to the numerics, or 0 if it's a whole number. So these are 2 syntax that are used when the variable num1 would be a real number. Real number means it can contain fractions. There is a single line method which looks like that. Of course, that doesn't mean it has to be in single line. I can declare var num1 equals on this line and 0.0 on the next line. That's perfectly okay. But this is called single line method because we have the word var, keyword var, name of the variable, and 0.0 means set this one to this value. When we don't do that, we'll see the effects of that actually. And then there is a 2-line method where line here gives us num1 declaration actually. So it will create a location in the RAM storing num1, and then on this line we give it actually a value. Here we are done in 1 line, here we are just doing 2 lines. We'll always use single line method because it's more efficient. I have to type fewer lines of code. And we're going to show now what is going on inside the RAM when each declaration method is used. And we'll also show you by running the code in the JavaScript code runner what is going on. Okay, so first one, if I just do this, when there's no initializer for the num1, I just say var num1. Really what, and this is my RAM cloud, by the way. Schematic picture of the RAM. So anytime I show you this cloud, that means I'm looking at the RAM. Okay. So it creates a variable called num1. But these question marks mean that value is undefined. We really don't know what's in there. It doesn't belong to our program because we have not put in a value there. It's undefined. And really, if I go to the JavaScript runner, I can actually show you by printing the value after this declaration that it is indeed undefined. So I'm actually going to go to JavaScript runner now, which is here, and I'll just say var num1. And there is another way to print called alert. Alert will actually just pop up a box, pop-up box with whatever you want to print on it. That's a little bit faster than document.writeln, so I'm going to use the alert. So meaning of this line here is that I told JavaScript that whatever is stored inside the num1, print that through and show it to us through a pop-up box. So we run it, and notice this word undefined. Okay, that means it doesn't really have a value that our program can use. All right, it's undefined. All right, so when you don't initialize a variable to anything, it has an undefined value. Undefined value is not usable by our program. For all practical purposes, it's a garbage. But if we do this, the single line method that I talked about earlier, I put 0.0, it'll actually put 0.0 in the variable called num1 in the RAM. And of course, when I print, I probably won't see 0.0, I'll say 0 because it just dropped the 0.0. That doesn't mean it's not there, 0.0 is there. So I'm gonna go to runner and prove to you that this picture is correct. And so I just add equals 0.0 in the runner and run it. And notice the 0 got printed here. Okay, so it doesn't show decimal point because we have to do a little bit more formatting, but it's actually there. So 0.0 is there. Okay, so this initialization works, and we have just proven through the code that when we do that, indeed inside the RAM 0.0 is stored. Okay, now I'm going to do the two-line method. Two-line method is this, that when I do this, if I print after that, I'll see undefined. But of course, then the second line, when I put 0.0, then I'll see this. And to prove that these two pictures are correct, I can actually go to my runner and do two alerts, one right after that and the other one, now I put num1 equal to 0.0, and I can just repeat this alert statement second time. And I can run it again. And notice the first alert, which is from this line here, after this value of num1, which is actually undefined, we showed that earlier, it does indeed print out undefined. Okay, and you can actually run this is javascript.cs.lmu.edu/runner. You can redo it yourself. For my class, this link is there in the course management system Desire to Learn, D2L. Others who are watching this, you can just go to this website and run your JavaScript program. Then of course, second alert should show me 0.0. And indeed, the second alert actually showed me 0, which is really 0.0. It just prints 0, of course. Okay. So this proves that this picture in the RAM is correct also. All right. So if you try to use variable before this line, it's just going to have garbage value. Wouldn't be anything good in it. But after that, it has 0, 0.0. So at least you can use that value, 0.0. Okay, so we demonstrated that already. Oh, let me go back. That's the web address that I was using. http://javascript.cs.lnu.edu/runner, and you can kind of put JavaScript code in there, play around with it, and see that it works. Okay, if you have a typing error, then it won't work. I don't think it will tell you the location of the typing error, but we'll look at this a little bit more in the future. The third thing we want to talk about is how we do the input in JavaScript. Data input is the harder part of learning programming because it has so many variations. I would say JavaScript is somewhat easier, one of the easier data input actually. Other languages are a little bit harder. Okay, so we're going to talk about JavaScript data input. Just like output is done using document.writeLn being a method, input in JavaScript is done using a function called prompt. You can write in two different ways, either just prompt, if you don't have multiple windows, or you can do window.prompt. In small programs, either one will work. Actually, professionally, this is more precise. And prompt function takes two arguments. Argument to functions are the parameters that function should take to do its job. So think of them as ports to a machine. If you want a machine to get something, you're feeding them through the port. Functions are like that. Think of them as a machine that needs some data in order to do its job, and arguments are those data. First argument tells the user what to input. So it informs the user what they are going to be inputting. And second argument is a placeholder where you can show another message or which user will type. If we wish user to input their name, a typical call to prompt function is shown in the next slide. So okay, so it looks like we're missing something here. Previous. Okay, so first argument is this. I think a portion was here that is missing. I had that, so let's see if I go up, will it show up? I guess not. Okay. Yeah, oh, there it is. Yeah, now I have it. Okay. So here's the var variable name, prompt function use. It says type your name, comma, type here. This is the first argument that shows up in the pop-up input box over here, and this argument shows up over here. Okay, and they will on the keyboard type something which will be erasing that, and they'll click OK. So whatever user types in this input box will be stored in the variable name. So that's after they click the OK button. So this will show the display of an input box similar to the picture here. But how this will look will be different for each browser. Okay, it's not going to be the same in every browser basically. And we're going to do this demo in the JavaScript program. Okay, so we go to our runner and do that. So we were looking for the name, so I'll say var name equals prompt type your name and press enter key. and then the placeholder type here. But of course, how would we know what they type? So I'm going to put an alert as well. Alert name. So that'll confirm that whatever they type got stored inside the name. And I'll run it. And notice I got the same dialog box back. Type your name and press enter key was the first dialog over here. And type here the placeholder over which we'll type. So I can type my name, for example. And then I click OK. And as soon as I do that, alert box should come up with this name. And there it is, see? So alert came up with this name. So that means prompt function took my input and stored that inside the variable called name. And alert is then showing the value stored inside. So if we click OK, we are fine. So that's how input of strings work. But next we want to show, okay, let me go back one more time. When we do like this, your variable var, the name of the variable, straight prompt. This will input, whatever is inputted is treated as text. Okay? Whatever is inputted is treated as a text, which is called string in computer science. But understand that numbers on which we need to do math are not text. So something has to be changed when we take input for numbers actually. So we want to talk about input of integers or floating point numbers. And there's some definitions needed here. Integers are the data that can never contain fractions. They are popularly known as whole numbers or round numbers. But on the other hand, okay, example of the integer, number of students in a class will always be nothing but a whole number. Number of days in a month will be nothing but a whole number. Those are called integers. Number of months in a year will be nothing but a whole number. That's called an integer. But the floating point numbers can contain fractional parts. They are more popularly known as real numbers. And there are a whole bunch of them too. For example, GPA is a floating point number. It could contain fractional part. It could be a whole number, of course, but that doesn't mean that it becomes an integer, because we have to allow the possibility of it containing a whole number, a fractional part. Okay. The prompt method used to input number, real or whole, uses slightly different code in the sense the right side is multiplied by numeric 1. If I declare var GPA like that, then I will store into GPA the value inputted by the user using this code, which is 1 multiplied by just the call to the prompt method. And here I'm saying enter your GPA and click OK and type your GPA here. And we demo that in the JavaScript runner. So JavaScript runner, I'm just going to combine this in one line. Okay. And obviously there will be an alert and all those to show us what got stored. Okay, so it was name. I'm going to make a GPA 1 multiplied by, type your GPA and now I want to print GPA. So notice this 1 is different because GPA is not a text. So purpose of this 1 is that, okay, whatever is returned, convert that into a number. That's the meaning of the 1 actually here. and it's asking me to GPA. So let's say somebody's GPA is 3.9. I click OK, and indeed alert came out with 3.9. Now of course this doesn't prove that it's a number, not a text. So what I can do is I'm going to put a value a little bit lower than 3.9. So let's do alert GPA plus 0.1, and I'm going to put maybe 3 or something. So if I put 3, it shows 3 first, which is here, and if I click OK, it should show 3.1, and indeed that's true. It shows 3.1, and we could do this plus and it shows up 3.1 only because it's a mathematical quantity, a numeric, not a string. Okay, you cannot add this number to a string the way you can to a number. Okay. All right. All right, now we have all the facts that we can use to convert our pseudocode to JavaScript code, at least for the program that multiplies 2 numbers. And this we show in the next slide. And sometime more than one step may be required to convert pseudocode to source code. In this case, I didn't think we needed that, but I think sometime that can happen. And steps needed in clarification are discussed subsequently. So really, that's my pseudocode on this line, and that's my JavaScript code there. And I will end this video by explaining this, but of course in the next video I will show you how to do this in actually making your own JavaScript file. Runner simply runs your code. It doesn't really save that for you, although you can copy and paste your script from there. But better way to do JavaScript would be type your own file. So I'll show that in the next video. But basically this was our pseudocode. Start num1, num2, product, get num1, get num2, product equal to num1 into num2, and then print first number num1, print second number num2, print product or both equals product, and end. So this is the translation. For start, no code needed in JavaScript, none whatsoever. Okay. The variable num1 in JavaScript will be declared as var num1. Okay. And although I didn't give a 0.0 here, I could do that if I wanted to. And num2 is var num2, and same thing here. I didn't set it to 0.0. I could if I want to. And same thing, product is declared as var product. I'm missing a semicolon, by the way, here. Let me actually fix that right now. And for that, I'll have to go to pretty much at the end of the slide over here. Okay, so missing that. Okay. So we showed how numerics are inputted. You call the prompt method and you put 1 multiply that, or you can do it afterwards, so it doesn't really matter. This is not very elegant. Elegancy would require that we use another function called parse, but we'll do that a little bit later in this class. Right now this will work for a while. And okay, there's another mistake. sorry about all those. So this should not be num1, this should be num2. Okay. Okay, so get num2 will be equivalent to, in the JavaScript code, num2 equal to 1 multiplied by prompt, enter the second number, type here, product will be num1 into num2, and that gets translated as is, except you do need a semicolon. When you want to print the first number, we use the document.writeLn, because that actually goes on the web page. Alert simply pops up the box, doesn't really go on the web page. So from here to here we have the text, first number equals, so that will print as is. Num1, whatever the value of num1 was stored on this line, that value will be printed here. BR is the line break. Then we print num2, so document.writeLn writes to the web page. The words second number equals will be printed as is. The current value of num2, which was gotten on this line, will be printed, and the line break, so that this line and this line are on different line. And finally, printing the product, so document.writeLn, and the words product of both equals will be printed as is, and the value of product that was determined on this line, not on this line, on this line because it got changed, will be printed here. So if this was 2 and this was 5, this will be 10, okay? And for end, you don't actually need any code. That would be as is, okay? So we have shown you how all the steps, we started out with user requirements. We analyzed them for different parts of analysis, input, process, and output. Then we did a flowchart. Then we did a pseudocode. We learned about JavaScript principles. Once we chose the JavaScript as language, that what we needed to learn in order to translate pseudocode to JavaScript code, and finally we did that, okay? So in the next part, in the final part, I will actually type this code. I'll have the pseudocode in front of me, of course, and we'll refer back to this in a JavaScript, or actually HTML file, in which I can add the JavaScript code and run it. Also, I'll make few intentional errors and show you how that works, okay, how you can fix the errors in JavaScript. Okay, so we completed the task of translating pseudocode to JavaScript code, and I'll see you in the next video. Thank you so much.